Hey, Tom here, FlipAnythingUSA. So I thought I'd just talk about starting at various levels of income and or just, cash on hand. It's one of the main questions I ask anybody that wants to get in my mentorship is how much cash do you have on hand? How liquid are you? And some have it tied up in a 401k where they get penalized to pull it out, and then they have to weigh out whether it's worth it or not, depending on what they're going to buy, right? But the fact is, I have a hard time telling anybody that you have to have money. You guys have heard me say all the time that I won't let anybody in the mentorship that doesn't have enough money to pay for the mentorship, plus have a little extra to, begin investing, put a deposit down, that sort of thing. And so I thought I'd talk about that because the reason is I say it's difficult because I bought my first property when I was 19. And what's also not usual when you buy something, your first property, it's usually a piece of land or a house, I think. I bought an industrial commercial, it was kind of a retail, kind of a flex space is how I would, what I would describe it as today. And, so one of the things that my students find out quickly when they get into the class is their eyes kind of open up and they broaden their horizons. Instead of thinking, house hack or whatever, stuff they heard on YouTube, they start to realize, I got to have my sight's got to be broader than that, and that's what opens them up to making a lot more money. So, like when you guys that are watching, what do you think about buying a house? Or I flip houses all the time, and here's one of the reasons why. Take a look. Most of the images, most of what you're looking at right now, those are houses, right? So, if we try to do the math on this, so you got houses. And then, a certain amount of these properties are commercial, industrial. Let's take a look along the freeways. That's when you're going to have, you're going to have stores and automotive. You'll have some apartments. These are offices, right? So if you look at it, you're going to have offices along the thoroughfare. You're going to have, retail. And when you get inside the area, then you're going to start to have the houses. Well, there's a lot more houses. There's a lot more opportunities with houses. And also, if you're a new buyer, then you got the opportunity to buy with less down. They usually have an opportunity. Or first time home buyers get kind of a break that people that have been around a long time don't get. Anyways, hey, if you just got here, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. So let's talk about various deals and the amount of money that it took to close each one. And so I'm going to go back to one of my earliest deals, and if you guys have been watching me for any amount of time, you already know this one. So this is the first deal I bought, and my students have repeated this success, and so it's not new. It's not like, oh, gee, I wish I was doing this back in the 80s. Listen, it's still, it would be a cop-out to say it's not the same, or I wouldn't mislead you. But so like I bought this $500 deposit, 6-month escrow, right? So I had 6 months to sink or swim on this deal. Now, generally, when you're buying a property, you're gonna throw out, whatever, $500 to a couple grand deposit. Sometimes they want option money. I just wrote an offer yesterday. I have $20,000, $1,000 option money. If they accept my offer, then I lose the $1,000 no matter what, and that's okay because I know what I'm buying is a fantastic deal. So let's look at this. So here's a industrial retail property. That basically $10,000 down, owner carried. It's the only way I could have bought it back then. And then here's a little house. This house, I bought it for $40,000 35 years ago, but somebody bought it in 2020 for $80,000, so not that much again, right? So, assuming you have decent credit, you can borrow, whatever. 80% of that money from most banks. If you put 20% down, you have a job or you have some capacity to cover bills. Now for bigger deals, like I'll show you a property that I paid $1 million cash. I'll show you a couple that I did, and this is actually interesting. You should keep this in mind too, by the way. I'm going to show you one. Well, before I get out of the area, let me just show you this real quick. Because I bought about 60, 70 lots in this area. I would buy lots in here with $2,000 down to $10,000 down, right? And I would sell them for about $30,000 on average, and I would carry a note and that sort of thing. But again, so the entry level cost, is very low for a piece of land sometimes, because the beauty of owner carried is there is no hard line that they have to follow. Like a bank has a hard line they got to follow. They can't loan somebody at 4% and loan somebody else at 8%. Otherwise, they'd be accused basically of abusing or showing favoritism to one person over another. That's why a lot of people don't understand. This. If a banker does turn a blind eye to a sub-2 deal that's 4%, while he's loaning out money to other people at 7.5% and 8%, he loses his job. And so he's got to call it out, because they're federally regulated, and so they have to. It goes back to just favoritism, and someone would claim racism or something else if they did something for one person that they didn't do. So there's land again. Now buildings are not exclusive to that either. I'll show you a building, another one here. I forgot about this one. So this one I made $100,000 on, but again, this was a $10,000 down deal, and it was a short note. And this is one of the things I teach my students is, I don't care if I can borrow money, even if it's owner carried. A year is fine. 2 years is usually fine. 3 years is better. Longer the better. But the deal is, if I have a deal, in other words, that's my criteria. I'm buying it under market, 100%. It's going to be under market by at least 30, maybe 45, maybe 80%. Sometimes it's happened. So again, and I'm trying to say, the point of this is entry level. Now, or if you 10 to 200,000. Now, if I had cash when I bought this, I would have offered cash. I would have said cash, and I would have I'd have hammered the best deal I could possibly get. So if you had $100,000, you could have paid $100,000 cash for this. If you weren't in such good shape, like I wasn't at the time, $10,000 down, owner carry the balance. And my owner carry on this, by the way, was 10% interest, right? 10%. So you guys freaking out that haven't been around long enough to know, interest rates have been much, much higher in the past. In the 80s, 80 through 90, it was 10% on average, especially anything, owner financed. But the banks were the same. They were just as bad. You kind of just followed what the banks did. So now, again, houses, a little different. This is a house I bought. And now things were worth $64,000 in this neighborhood when I bought this property for $34,000. So there was $30,000 to be made basically on this. If you had cash, I would have just paid cash. And I did pay cash for this. I had to get a partner, unfortunately, and split the profit with them. But that's the deal. I tell people I would prefer to borrow the money at a high interest rate rather than have a partner when I know that the deal is that good. Hey, Leo, can you do me a favor? Can you close that door or almost all the way? So yeah, I got a bit of remodeling work going on here today, which, that's the other thing. A lot of people don't consider the renovations as much as they possibly should. It's the good thing about all this stuff, whether you're whatever level investor you are, it's just math. Okay, it's just math. Now, the mistakes that people make are not buying in their neighborhood, not buying nearby, and that I say that's a mistake, because you can see my history, and I've made tens of millions of dollars, is buy everything nearby. Everything's a rock's throw away. That's what I did when I was, from age 19 to 30. That's what I did here, and you can see everything's in the same town, right? This is my first $1 million right here. Is what I made in this area. Furthest thing was probably a 20-minute drive, and there's not a lot of those, but I made $350,000 on that, so it was worth it. It made sense. Made $160,000 on. No, that ain't it. It's over here on another one. But those are the things. So anybody got any questions? Please throw it in the chat, and I'll address it right away. I'm actually nervously waiting for a response on my offer. You'll learn a little bit about that too. I hate letters of intent. Letters of intent. If you get in the class, I'll explain why they're not so good. But anyway, so now let's talk about let's talk about retail. And now this is a good example, or industrial, right? Let's just say you have $500,000. So let me show you what I would do if I had $500,000. Or if that's all I had. I got an industrial building here. I'm going to show you. It's one I bought maybe 5 years ago. You know, I got it in the 4% rate. Let me see here. Well, I can go all over the place actually. Let's go industrial warehouse. That's the wrong warehouse, but let me show you another one. I'm all over the place. Here it is. Yeah, so let's just do the math on this. Maybe I can bring up the iPad and we can do some math on this. Because this is really a good one. And I mean, technically, I didn't finance this because I had cash. I paid cash for it. But what I did is I financed after I paid cash for it. So this is a good lesson for everybody to watch this and it'll give you some perspective too. So I actually bought 3 houses for $120,000 a piece, and I resold those 3 houses together for about $1.8 million, 1.8, and then I paid cash for this building of 1.6. And you know, this property here brings in about $144,000 a year, $12,000 a month. Plus I charge them, you know, triple net, so they pay a little extra. Hey, by the way, if you haven't got my book, get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. And of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you enjoy the content that you see here. Next, let me show you something. Oh, yeah. So here's the details on this. Let me see if I can get an iPad on here. What I'm doing, I'm just going to go through the numbers with you. Let me get a screen up here. Great. Asking me for an update that I don't want to do. Okay, let's go to something else. All right. So, hey son, where's the iPad on here? Oh, there it is. Doesn't seem to be working. Hang on. Get the iPad up here. This will be a little easier to show you. So basically, what I'm going to do is work the math on if I bought this with, if I bought this with a $500,000 down. Trying to write this out so it'll be easier for you to follow. Here we go. Let's see here. It's not seeing it. Here we go. There we go. There's iPad. Maybe. I'm not seeing it. So. Well, we'll rough it here, I guess. All right, so let me just put it this way. I bought this, I paid cash for this, then I went back to the bank and I bought it as if I went back and, in other words, I went back and said, I want to pull 3/4 of the equity out of this property. So $1.6 million, $400,000 down. So now we're talking about a $400,000 down example. So now at the time when I bought this, the interest rates were only about, I think, 5%. I think it was 5% roughly. So on the 5%, a 5% loan, let's just say 5% loan anyways, I was getting a 9.25% return. So 9.25% return on a $1.6 million asset, a 9.525 cap. That's about $144,000 a year. Now, when I went back to the bank and I pulled out $1.2 million, okay, I took $1.2 million out and put that in the bank. So basically I borrowed that $1.2 million on this property. And now the bank's financing whatever 1.2, and I have $400,000 equity that I put down. Now I bought it, basically I bought it like everything I buy. It was under market. That's why it had such a high cap rate. But I bought a $2.4 million building for $1.6 million. But that's why the returns are so good, and that's why I tell you, if you hold your standards high, you'll make a lot of money. If you don't, you won't. But back to this. Now that I borrowed $1.2 million, and I'm paying roughly 5% on that. That's $60,000. Is that $60,000? Roughly $60,000 a year. Interest on that on there. But in the end, I was still bringing in $99,000 a year. So after servicing the debt on the 1.2 million, I was still bringing in $99,000 a year on this because I bought it right. I bought it under market. The rents proportionately to what I paid for it were very high. So now the advantage of that is, like I say, if you could have bought the same property, if you had the deal I had, you could have just bought it with $400,000 down. The bank would have loaned you $1.2 million, and you'd still be killing it with the money that you're making on it. So that's another example. So that's on a $400,000 deal. Because the money was really only costing me, about $44,000. Actually, it was costing me a little bit more than that. But in the end, I still made $99,000 a year with 25% equity. And that's what's so key is you got to understand, you got to have equity on everything you buy. These, you hear this stupid sub-2 shit about buying, zero down or zero equity and take over. The problem with that stuff is that you make a deal and you take over somebody's debt and they got zero or very little equity. They got so little equity that if you put it on the market and sold it, they'd have to pay an agent the difference to get rid of it. That's the problem with these guys that are upside down. And in the market right now, our market's declining. I'm getting tax bills right now, and I'm seeing properties that were, some of the little houses that I bought, I already have sold them, but some of the houses that I bought for $225 that were worth $350 that I sold, for even a little bit more than that, are kind of getting marked down to. They probably dropped. Be accurate here, $350 to $400. So about 12.5% to 15%. I've seen the tax assessor drop the values on these. So again, it's always like the devil's in the details. You can make some sense of some things financing wise, and I'm trying to think of one that I did. I'll buy stuff also interest only. Interest only is a wonderful way. If you can make a deal and buy interest only, a lot of people freak out with that because they feel like they need to pay down the mortgage. Well, you don't need to. If you get a property and you buy it right day one, you've already got, let's just say you buy something for $1.5 million that's worth $2 million. So on day one, you've got $500,000 equity. And now on the debt you want to service, if you can pay interest only and pay fair market rate or lower, because ideally if they carry it, you can get it lower, but even if you go to the bank and you get an interest only loan, and I've done that a lot. I'll borrow money against property from the bank and I'll pay interest only. In fact, I got a great story for you on that too, by the way. I'll pay interest only because it doesn't matter. I've got equity. Why do I care about paying it down? I'm making money on it every year, so I don't need to worry about paying it down. In fact, basically what I owe on it, even if it stays the same, proportionately, it's as if and so this is, a lot of people can't think like this, but this is how I think, is even if I'm sitting there with a mortgage that is never going down because I'm paying interest only, the value of the asset is going up. I'm raising the rents annually every year. And so, in other words, it's as if I'm reducing the debt, even though I'm not, because I'm increasing the value. So by the value going up, proportionately, I've reduced the debt. Proportionate, pro rata. So just something to consider. What else? But I actually just paid off an interest only note. So check this out. I bought a property that I'm going to give you the particulars on it right now, but I bought a property for $80,000 that was worth about $350,000. And I borrowed 100%. I borrowed the whole 80 grand. Just because it was easy and I could, and it's a good story, but I borrowed the whole $80,000, and I got interest only, but I never made a payment on it. So for 5 years, the interest rate, and they didn't do compounding interest. They were nice to me. They just said, we're going to charge you 4% a year on 80,000. So it was 4%, 3,200, times 7 years, because that's how long before I paid them off. So, but they didn't compound it. So it was 3,200 times 7, 21, and what is that? 21, 14, 22, like 22.5. Add that to the, it was a little more than that. It must have been 8 years. So in the end, 5 or 7 years later, I paid this thing off where I'd never made a payment on it at all. I bought it interest only, and it just accrued. And at the end of 8 years, I owed $108,000, and now the asset was worth $450. So again, I could have made all that rent all that time, except I didn't rent it. Actually, it's a vacation rental for me, so I just didn't have to pay for my vacation rental for 7 years. And now, like I said, so does anybody follow me on that? Do you work with wholesalers to get deals? Yeah, I do. But, let me just tell you something about the wholesalers. And I do buy from wholesalers a little bit. But it's not a good market for wholesalers right now anyways. And a lot of times there's, the wholesalers, they kind of give themselves a bad name because typically I'll see a wholesaler and say, hey, I got this property, send me the address. And I'll look at it. And it's like, it's not a good enough deal for me. I can't jump on it. So I'll beat them down a little bit if I can get it to where it makes sense to me. But usually I try to beat them down beyond to a place that they can't even go to because they paid a little bit too much for it, in my opinion. So then I'll find whoever they bought it from, and because it'll be in the MLS that's tied up. Oh, I'll call the agent. Oh, no, we have it sold. And so we got to wait to see if they close it. Meanwhile, they're trying to shop it around to get somebody to buy it, and it's not selling. And so I know, I'll say, well, when is this thing going to expire? When does his money go hard? Is he going to bail out if he doesn't sell it? And so they'll tell me that. And both sides will tell you that. But so then, I don't buy it. I watch it coming back on the market, but I talk to the agent and say, hey, before you put it back on the MLS, call me. And because I'm interested. And they say, oh, well, we'll know in a week. And so I'll call him in a week, and I'll see if he hasn't wholesaled it off to somebody else. And if he hasn't, that's perfect. And that's where I'll usually make the buy right there. So I do find some deals from wholesalers, but they actually get screwed out of it a little bit because they're coming to me with a deal that's not good enough, and that's why I watch them fail. And nothing against the wholesalers, and I paid $17,000 to a wholesaler just recently on a property that I'm going to make about $70,000 on. Not quite as much as I'd like to make on it, but he got to make something. And I looked at another property that and believe me, I can show you how to wholesale, and I've done a bunch of it, but it's not something I like to do. It's something I've done when I couldn't hold it. And I'll give you a couple examples of properties that I wholesaled. And one of them being let me go back in time here a bit. Yeah, this is something I did when I was like 20. I'm going to guess I was about 24 years old. Let me show you. Yeah, actually, I'll show you two of them, two deals. So this is going back into the 80s, and I'll show you some recent ones too. So this was a property that I call it assignments. You guys like to call it wholesale. I just call it assignments. But this one here I made $2,500 on. Just a little lumber company. It used to be called Waterbury Hardwood. Otto Waterbury. He didn't like me very much. But he was a nice enough guy. And then this is a little hardware store that I got tied up to buy. I couldn't buy it by myself. And this is what kind of got me into wholesaling at that moment was I made a commitment to buy the property, but I was buying it about $70,000, $80,000 under market. And then I looked for somebody for money, and I found my old boss. And I said, hey, let's buy it together. He said, I don't want any partners, Tom. And so there he said, I'll give you $20,000 if I can take it over. So that's what I did. I gave it to him for $20,000. So that's really my first wholesale deal right here. I made $20,000. That's back in like 1984. So that's like making $60,000 now, right? So again, but this is an example where if I could have, I would have paid 150 cash, or I'm sorry, yeah, 150 or 170 cash, and then I would have turned around and sold it for 220, 250 or something like that. So like I say, the wholesaling is for people that don't really have much money, and the sub 2 is really for nobody. The sub 2 is really something that I would play with it. I would, if I had to do it, I would just pay cash for it normally. That's what I would do. But if I was going to do a sub 2 deal, the criteria is this. It has to be worth 30, 40% more than I'm paying for it. The guys that grovel and are trying to make crumbs, you're going to make them. If that's what you set your standards at, making a crumb, you're going to make crumbs. But if you set your standards higher, then here's the situation where I would do it. I would buy a sub 2 deal. If it was worth, just say it's a $300,000 house, and I take over and they put it in my LLC or whatever, or make an LLC just for that purchase is what I do. I've heard Pace Morby say, you can put multiple properties in a single LLC. Listen, you can if your portfolio is not worth shit. Then you can do that. And I think a lot of his stuff is garbage. But if you have equity, like I have equity, I have properties that millions of dollars of equity in each of the different ones. All of those are in different entities because I have something to lose, okay? So that's why you do that. And it's like a cancer. If you have 2 properties in one LLC and somebody gets killed, or, it could be anything. It could be it's just, there's all kinds of people get hurt on a property. Well, now they can attach everything. And I've seen people get sued for millions of dollars over and above their coverage. It's a very uncomfortable situation. And anyways, that's why. So, but back on to the subject for something like this, or any of these properties. If you can afford to pay cash, treat your cash with respect. In other words, when you have cash, and even if you just have the ability to borrow money, that's cash. Treat yourself with respect and respect the money. Money is something that, listen, most of the people probably watching right now have not such great credit ratings. I know that. And so that's why owner financing is fantastic for you, but also deal making is, because there's nothing anybody can do. Hit that subscribe button, by the way. There's no advantage. There's some advantage over being rich, don't get me wrong, because you can come in there and pay cash and blow everybody out the door. But if you can make a deal with somebody and just get it signed, and now you go find somebody like me that has the money. See, in other words, we're the same in as much as neither one of us have the deal at the moment. But if you go get the deal, just like I called my old boss, John Brooks, and had him meet me at that building right here that I'm showing you, that I couldn't afford to buy by myself. He just said, Tommy, I'll give you 20 grand, I'll take it over. And that's what he did. He gave me 20 grand, he made the big money. And that's in a nutshell, that's what wholesaling is. You're just getting a little piece because you're limited to what you can do. You don't have the buying power. But you do enough deals, and like in this neighborhood, even though I started broke, I used a partner, and then after I made about 40 grand with a partner, I landed a deal that I didn't need a partner. I had enough cash on my own. I had about 40 grand, so I put only took $5,000 or $6,000. I took over an existing FHA loan, which was assumable legally, and I flipped it and let somebody else assume that loan, and I made another 15 grand or something, or so now I made about 20 actually. So now I had 60 grand. And then I looked at buying property. I bought land. I bought individual lots for 10 grand, selling for 30. But again, I respected the money, and I made sure that I didn't buy. I wouldn't buy a property. I wouldn't take 10 grand cash on my pocket unless I could, turn it into 25 or 30. And that's the kind of standard. Maui Kid, did I answer your question well enough? It says, do you work with wholesalers? Obviously I do, but I'm elaborating a lot. I know that. And I'm doing it because smart minds want to know, right? Listen, you got to get skills that you don't know. If I try to tell people, listen, if you go to college, and you learn how to, or you go to work for a plumber, and pretty soon you're a master plumber after 5 years. You get an education. It's an internship, and that's pretty much what you get with me. It's like an internship. It's a mentorship, and if you just got here, let me just show you this stuff. Look at my students. If you want to know a good teacher, look at their students, right? I guarantee you, you're not going to find anybody better than me on the internet, period. And if so, compare me. We'll do a live comparison. Anyways, $2 million on a single deal. and he did several six-figure flips. All these gentlemen here have made anywhere from, in less than a year, this guy made $213,000. Here he's already made 145 this year, made 220 last year, 1.3 million here last year, 1.4 million recently. This gentleman here has been killing it. When I interviewed him here, he made 200,000. But after that 200,000, guess what? He's gone on to make almost $4 million. He's got a $5.5 million portfolio now, with about $1.5 million debt. So he is, and it's kind of funny because I get to watch my students, I get to kind of relive some of their experiences that I've had years ago through them and some of the struggles. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And it's my pleasure to help them through it as they, hit these snags that they hit. But and so like in Ron's case, I watched him, he started getting, pretty soon he had so many tenants. He's like, the phone's ringing at night and, text, and there's scuffles between tenants on the properties. And it's funny because I see him, I say, oh, you're starting to get the rich people problems. And it's really cool. And they're rich people problems, So, Garrett here also, he made 25 grand just using the book. And then he came back and he got into the mentorship, made hundreds of thousands of dollars, very short time, probably millions by now. And here's a couple new millionaires right here, new real estate millionaires since getting in the class. These are businessmen, these are businessmen. I get sharp people. I get people that have been in real estate for 30 years, 40 years, come and get in my mentorship because they want to learn about an aspect that they don't know. And that's what they get. But like I say, even if you're totally green, as long as you got a good mind, I'm telling you, as long as you have a good mind, have common sense, chances are it makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is if you have $50,000, $100,000 and you don't own any real estate. That's just sad. I mean, that it means you're not doing the right thing. You got that paralysis by analysis. But what you need is you just need an education. And so that's what I provide is a very cheap education compared to college, and it's a much faster class in making money. And just ask any of these people here. And I got a bunch more testimonials to put on. But, I venture to say just show me anybody that's anybody that's got students that have made as much as my students have, collectively or individually. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this stuff. Let me know. Again, if you want to, and I'm going to stop taking mentees the 15th of March. I'm still going to support everybody that's in the group, and I got a fantastic group. But the community is very smart, very, very smart. But you hit here, you apply for mentorship. Just fill that out right there. Fill that out, and you will hear back from me, and we can have a phone call. Otherwise, we won't. But get a book. Get a book and start opening your mind and start seeing what you're missing. Because if you don't look in, you will never know what you're missing. And I'm telling you, in a blink, your neighbor could get this book and get in my class. And while you're thinking about it for a year, you can make $1 million. And I say that with confidence because I do have students that have made $1 million in like a year or even 18 months. Or, in this case, he'd been in mentorship a while, but basically he made $2 million overnight, okay? It's that cool. PGM wrote, my local market is crazy hot. Of course you should. I mean, you should. When you say move, you mean do something. Look, you should never stop investing. Look, and I'll go back to the Google map here. I mean, listen, I've been buying every year for 43 years. I've seen we're not even in tough times right now. The worst of times was when I bought my first property, right? We were coming out of inflation that had just gone through. I mean, the inflation in the 70s was what it's like today. But we'd already it had already gone far enough that everything kind of crashed and went to hell. But I didn't have to suffer that as an adult. I suffered that as a kid, powdered milk and welfare and shitty clothes. That's how I suffered it. My parents paid the price, and the kids paid the price along with the parents. It's just how it works. What I can say is we're going to survive what's going on. I've been listening to all these goofballs tell people that, the Fed's going to cut it. I'm saying it since 23. And it's like, no, they're not. And so now here we are, and no rate cuts this year. And, people that take that kind of advice really, really, that's to say the worst thing you can do is take a fake guru's advice. That'll sink you worse than anything. So Truth Seeker, wrote, let me find some glasses. Truth Seeker wrote, should I fix my credit or just dive in and invest in real estate and focus on the deal and not worry? Listen, I mean, what's it going to take you to fix your credit? I mean, that's something you can do in your spare time. Listen, you should never not invest. You should always invest. If you damaged your credit, I mean, you need to do a little self-examination because obviously you fucked up. I mean, you obviously misjudged the amount of money you needed to make, or you misjudged that you couldn't pay your bills as agreed. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the situation, unless it's medical or something like that. But in any event, you should, on your credit rate, create it, just you can dispute that stuff. Listen, when you get wealthy enough, you don't even care. I don't. Nobody looks at my credit score. I mean, they'll look at it, but that's not whether they're going to give me a loan. They're going to look at my portfolio and see that I have tens of millions of dollars of equity in all the properties that I own, and that's what they want to see. They want to see equity. That's why I say when somebody says, "Oh, give me your zero equity deals," it's a joke. It's just stupidity. Anyways. Anybody else? You got anything? I actually I'm going to put in misters on a patio. And so I got to go look at a job that's already done and then see how I'm going to put that on the patio that I'm also working on right now. And so no other questions. I guess we'll cut it. But listen, thanks for stopping in, everybody. And please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Well, my button isn't working, but anyways, hit that subscribe, hit that like button. Helps the channel. And the other thing is, look, get the book. Spend $10 and get my book because if you don't, you're just never going to know what you're missing. And a lot of you guys out there already have it, but you can go to FlipAnythingUSA.com. Watch these testimonials. Watch these guys' faces. None of this is bullshit.
Let's sign this $1 million deal. I've never, done this in my life. I was like freaking out, and after reading Tom's book and being involved in his mentorship, I've been able to make a couple $100,000 on a house, another couple $100,000 on another house, and what I estimate is up in excess of $1 million in equity on a commercial building that I bought. So it's very real and it's very tangible.
So that's just typical of the guys that do deals. The ones that start doing and making deals make real money. On average, I think the average student has probably made about $50,000, something like that. I don't think anybody can come near that record. But it's because I don't have thousands of students in huge face groups where people are just talking circles and going nowhere. I don't do that. I want productive, smart people. That's why I vet everybody that I let in. A lot of people don't have confidence. They should have confidence. I've seen bartenders that, they can sell anybody a drink or a triple or whatever they want, and it's like, man, this is a waste of talent. You could do so much better, just a bigger, better product. So anyways, again, we'll look to see you guys here soon. Okay, son. Oh, maybe. And let's see. Sorry, guys. I have a malfunction going on here, but I'm going to fix it right now. And we'll, where are we at, son? Where's the, all right. Grab a copy of the book. Don't forget that. I'll find it here.